everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the EU is joining Mastodon. All right, welcome back. So, one thing that's interesting about this whole Twitter fiasco is that EU is joining Mastodon's social network service, all right, and sets up its own server. So what is Mastodon here? Well, Mastodon is basically an open source version of Twitter. Anyone can kind of use it here. It's very interesting just because now the EU is making an ad-free version, which is interesting. As I've mentioned before with Twitter, I think the easiest way to just stop all the chicanery on these social networks is to just get verified. So if you want to, let's say, go into a crypto exchange, you usually have to send your driver's license and usually have to verify you. The same thing can happen with Twitter here. You have to be verified here. And with that verification, it comes a lot of, legal ramifications here. So if you're in the United States, the free speech is probably the most in the world. But if you go to other countries, the free speech isn't as much here. And there are a little bit more rules. For example, you cannot deny the Holocaust happened in Germany, and that might be a rule on this particular Twitter open source EU version here. But this is interesting that they're going to do this just because they're now going to have an ad-free version of this where you can kind of just talk about things. Now the question is will they shut down information, right? If you have an opposing view, like it doesn't matter what it is, if you have an opposing view, will you get shut down? And that's kind of the reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter, because if you have an opposing view, even if the groupthink doesn't think it's correct, it could actually be correct, but you have to go and discuss it here. Since I run an e-learning company, I always say that you have to have a discussion with topics, even if you don't agree with them, because you can't grow. And if you want the other person to grow as well, you have to have that discussion. You can't shut them out here. So this is really interesting that they've done this here. But I do think that Twitter could be the de facto place that everyone can go and get kind of the right news if they do it properly. Getting verified, again, I think is the biggest thing. And you cannot join Twitter unless you are verified, right? And with that comes a lot of extra work, I understand, but I think they would absolutely fix it here. Now, one thing I should also mention, if we look over here, Donald Trump's new social media site, Truth Social, is based off of Mastodon. However, they didn't make the source code available, violating the license here. Now, licenses are really important here. I could probably do a whole video about it. But basically, whenever you go into GitHub, in fact, you can just go to the GitHub and look at Mastodon here, right? You can go fork this here, but you have to make the source code available. And that's interesting that they did that here. Basically, they published the source code, which they kind of had to. Otherwise, they'd have to start it from scratch, which would be a lot here. So that's interesting that Truth Social is there here. And look at this, the neutrality is disputed on this. But Elon Musk did tweet about this, that it was more people were downloading it than Twitter. We're going to see a lot of competition in the social media space, and it remains unclear as who's going to win. Now, I really do hope Elon Musk's Twitter wins, and it was kind of too little too late in terms of him purchasing it. He probably should have purchased it 6 months or a year ago. I think that is, I think it's interesting, and I'm definitely going to keep you updated on this channel. So that concludes this video. I want to know your thoughts down below. Is the EU, a government joining or making its own social media, good or bad? Again, I want to know. Have you used Truth Social? Are you planning to use the EU one? Do you use Twitter anymore? Which social media sites do you use? On a slightly more humorous note, I hope that Mastodon, the metal band, gets more views as a result of this here. I've never pretty much listened to Mastodon, but nevertheless, I do know they exist, and I think it's kind of funny. If you really like this channel, you can purchase this project on Kickstarter here. It really does help us out when you purchase this project here. If you want to learn Python for finance, learn how to trade, Web3, metaverse, and of course machine learning, this bundle of courses is for you. There are 10 levels in here, and there are super in-depth here. You can learn everything from crypto to Python, to machine learning, and more. And we also have the metaverse tutorials here. There are 10 levels here. You can pledge for it today. This is going to be the cheapest this bundle will ever be here. And the more you pledge, the more courses you get. It's the #1 way to make sure that your skills are recession proof. And this is going to be the best way to keep your skills updated in the next decade. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.